You don't even hear the scream, you feel it. It hits the air like a bone snapped in half. Down the corridor, just beyond the oil lamp's dying reach, someone is giving birth, or trying to. The midwife's voice is hushed but panicked. A prayer in Sanskrit slurs into Greek. Salt and turmeric stain the floor. Frankincense burns, useless against the stench of blood and failure. The woman on the stone table is too young, barely 16. Her skin is pale from the potion she drank to summon a son. The fetus is sideways. There's no physician here. Just folk charms and muscle memory. A copper amulet swings from the ceiling. It reads, Ugni, burn away the girl child. You want to step back, but history pulls you forward. This isn't one culture's nightmare. It's a shared obsession. From the Vedic plains of India to the marble courtyards of Athens, ancient parents didn't just want children, they wanted sons, and they were willing to kill to get them. Ancient Greeks believed sex before noon made boys. Ancient Indians timed conception by the lunar phase. But that was just the beginning. You hear the baby's first cry. It's soft, wrong. It's a girl, the midwife whispers. The priest is already reaching for the blade. You watch the girl's life shrink to a single heartbeat, and then silence. Step outside the death chamber and into the world that created it. You're in the 5th century BCE. In Greece, Socrates is annoying people with questions. In India, the Mahabharata has already been sung for generations. 2 massive civilizations, 2 different religions. One identical panic. What if the child is born female? In Greece, it's simple economics. Women don't inherit. Women can't vote. Women are a dowry liability. Too many daughters? Congratulations, you're broke. In India, it's cosmic. Gender is karma, written into your soul. A daughter is often seen as the result of a past sin. Sons are dharma, duty, ritual, salvation. Only a son can light your funeral pyre. So people try to cheat the system. Midwives become gatekeepers of life and death. Priests start moon calendars. Housewives are handed scrolls promising masculine heir if they prey on specific stars. Saffron, cow urine, crushed pearls, even crocodile bile mixed, chanted over and swallowed. If it sounds spiritual, it's easier to ignore the cruelty. And here's the catch. They believed it worked, for centuries. You'd think they invented astrology to justify misogyny. Who needs science when you've got male-making mantras and goat testicles hanging above your bed? You turn the page of a preserved medical scroll and realize the next instruction is for dismemberment, surface ritual. Let's look at the ritual before it rots. You walk into a Brahmin home in Varanasi, 300 BCE. There's a shrine in the kitchen. Not the temple, because that's where the real creation happens. A woman kneels in front of a fire, reciting the Garbhadhana mantra. Her husband sits behind her. She's fasting. He's watching the moon. Step 1. Pray to Vishnu, the preserver, to implant a boy. Step 2. Time the sex odd days for sons, even days for daughters. Step 3. Eat ghee mixed with banyan bark. Step 4. Chant the Putra Kameshti Yagna, a ritual so intense it includes sacrificing a horse in higher caste homes. Sounds like myth? The Atharva Veda actually includes recipes for gender control potions. Jump to Greece. A midwife in Corinth, 400 BCE, ties red wool around the woman's thigh and makes her lie on her right side after intercourse. Right side equals boy. Left side? That's a problem. They even used heat maps. Warm womb? Male. Cold womb? Female. They didn't have thermometers, so they guessed based on mood swings and vibes. This wasn't fringe behavior. This was elite knowledge. Aristotle himself wrote about gender control. He believed it was linked to wind direction during sex. Thumbnail scene. A Greek woman lying still in candlelight while her husband checks the wind outside the window. Imagine being born because your dad read the weather wrong. And yet, they kept trying. Cliffhanger. You hear chanting rise again, but this time, it's not meant to bless. It's meant to erase. The erased girl. Her name was possibly Theophila, or Sita, or it never made it onto a record. She was one of thousands. Her crime? Being the wrong sex. You crouch near the ruins of a home in Athens. Inside, charred bones child-sized unearthed from a family hearth. Excavations confirm female infanticide. Not rare, not hidden. In India, you find a well from 100 BCE filled with skeletons in a rural Rajasthan village. Experts call it a gender dump. Not metaphorically. Literally, a graveyard for unwanted girls. Let's follow one. She's born to a wealthy housewife. The prayer was done right, the position followed. But the moon changed last minute. She came out a girl. The midwife doesn't look at her face. She wraps her in wet cloth and leaves her outside. She survived for maybe an hour. Maybe less. Her mother screams, not for help, but to distract herself. Her husband walks to the temple, blaming karma. The neighbors pretend not to hear. You want to believe it's rare. It's not. Statues of fertility goddesses often had broken arms, symbolic of warding off girls. Female babies weren't seen as blessings. They were seen as waste. A baby wrapped in silk, left on a temple step under the shadow of a blood-red idol. She will never be counted, never be named, but her blood will mix with generations. And in the silence of that well, something starts moving again. Act 2. Hidden motive. You thought this was about children. It never was. You're standing inside a stone chamber in Patliputra, 200 BC, low light, incense. A scroll unrolled, on a table lacquered with oil. A priest reads in near silence while a couple kneels, heads bowed, eyes shut, waiting. The ritual isn't about prayer. It's about power. This is how you learn. Gender control wasn't always desperation. Sometimes it was strategy. In both India and Greece, sons meant more than pride. They were insurance policies. Heirs, warriors, social leverage. You don't want a child. You want a sword. In India, you learn about Putra Kameshti, a fire ritual performed by kings desperate for male heirs. Horses sacrificed, queens made to fast, chants that went on for days. But underneath the sacred smoke is something meaner, inheritance law. Land passes through sons, wealth too. Without a male heir, property can be claimed by brothers, uncles, rival kings. A daughter? She marries out. She drains the estate. She can't burn your funeral pyre. You die unfulfilled. Worse, your name dies with you. The real motive isn't spiritual, it's survival of ego. Jump to Sparta, Greece. 480 BCE. You're inside a training barrack. Boys no older than 7 are already fighting each other with bare fists. This is a gauge. A son will be a soldier, a protector, a legacy. Girls, they're not trained, not recorded, not even clothed in death the same way. Athenian law allowed exposure, legal abandonment of newborns. Fathers could discard girls in public, especially if they already had one. It wasn't considered murder. It was considered editing. And here's where it gets worse. In both cultures, the temples knew, the scholars knew. Even the midwives, those so-called protectors of birth, were trained to correct fate. You find a tablet in an ancient Indian healing center. It lists herbs, chants, timing, diet, but it's titled Balance of Womb. Translation: How to manipulate birth order without divine interference. Translation of the translation: God doesn't choose. Man does. There are recipes to make the womb hotter, like adding pepper-infused ghee or goat bile. Hot womb equals boy. Cool it down? Girl. Greece had similar pseudoscience. They'd bleed pregnant women to cool their wombs if they feared a female birth. They believed semen had directional force, and the woman's body could either aid or deflect that force. You think that sounds ridiculous until you realize some of this logic stuck around for centuries. Here's the hidden motive in full daylight. This wasn't about favoring boys. It was about erasing choice, about policing the very blueprint of life. They wanted to master fate, but couldn't tell left from right without asking the goat. Congratulations, you're having a boy because your urine turned the right color next to a beetle carcass. What they feared wasn't daughters. What they feared was power leaving the hands of men. A scroll showing a ritual layout with a sacrificial horse, a fire pit, and instructions to bind a woman to channel male energy. You look closer at the scroll and see blood fingerprints over the final line. Escalate, the butcher midwives and gender plague. The baby's not even out yet, and she's already a problem. She kicks too softly. Her mother didn't eat the saffron in time. The moon is waning, bad omen, so they cut early. You walk into a low-lit birthing chamber in Thebes, 300 BCE. Two midwives hover. One is old, fingers like dry twigs. The other is younger, but her eyes are already gone behind the duty. No screams this time. Just silence. Controlled, sterile, ominous. You see the knife first. It's not for a C-section. It's for corrective fate. If the baby comes out a girl, there's a decision to make. Does she live? Do they lie to the father? Do they pinch her nose until the crying stops and say she never breathed at all? The midwives keep records. You find them in fragments notes scrawled on pottery shards, etched behind altars, whispered in old dialects. A code of silence. Better a quick death than a cursed life. And that's how they saw it. As mercy. In ancient India, midwives often doubled as herbalists and executioners. If a family didn't want a girl, she'd mix herbs into a paste and spread it on the infant's tongue. Too bitter. Too hot. It burned the lungs from the inside out. They called it Ashma Rasayana, a tonic of fire, cleansing the karmic slate. And here's where the horror creeps in sideways. Some midwives didn't wait to be told. If they saw too many daughters in one village, they took it as a sign. Balance must be restored. They'd adjust nature. Entire birth logs from ancient towns list only males for years at a time. Statistically impossible, ritually enforced. But here's the turn. You discover towns started collapsing, not morally. Biologically, gender imbalance triggered chaos. Fewer girls meant fewer births. Marriages became impossible. Young men kidnapped brides from neighboring villages. Child brides dropped from 13 to 8. Inbreeding spiked. Disease spread. In Athens, there were reports of entire neighborhoods going barren. In Indian court records from Mauryan times, certain royal houses begged for fertility aid because there were no marriageable women left to carry their lines. They erased girls for power and ended up with extinction knocking. Dry irony hit. They wanted sons to carry their name. Turns out, you need daughters for that. Even temples tried to intervene. One scroll from Kashi speaks of a ban placed on gender rituals, too many miscarriages, too many missing children. But people didn't stop. They just got quieter. You read about milk girls, female infants raised in secret by midwives, sold to rich families who lost their daughters. Underground gender markets. Infanticide was profitable if the timing was right. One girl survives. Her mother fakes a stillbirth, buries a goat's liver in her place, and sends her away wrapped in stolen cloth. She grows up in a priest's cellar, unnamed for 7 years. She never speaks above a whisper. Her first word? Why? A midwife kneeling over a cradle, holding a sharp curved blade in one hand and a bowl of herbs in the other. The baby stares up, silent. By now, even you are wondering, how far does this spiral go? You open the midwife's ledger. The next child on her list hasn't been born yet. Rituals gone rotten. You're in the back room of a ruined temple in Delphi. A thick veil of mold clings to the altar. Mice nest in the scroll cubbies. You breathe in, and it smells like vinegar and rot, but under it, something sharper. Like old iron, blood, you run your finger over the stone. It's carved with a warning. Those who command the womb shall be judged by the dead. You don't know what it means yet, but you will. Because now the rituals begin to fail. Start in India, 2nd century BCE. The Mauryan dynasty is falling apart. Generals fight over succession, and everyone's counting male heirs like gold coins. One queen performs Putra Kameshti, sacrifices a stallion, fasts for 21 days, drinks goat milk infused with saffron. She conceives. It's supposed to be a boy, it's not. She births a daughter with a birthmark shaped like a noose. The priests call it a curse. One claims the fire ritual was contaminated. Another whispers she conceived under the wrong moon. To correct the divine error, they try again. This time, they lace her food with ash from a burnt elephant tusk, a rare substance said to burn away female energy. She bleeds out before the 2nd trimester. They call her death a noble failure. And her daughter? Locked in a monastery, never seen again. That's the pattern now. The more they try to hack life, the more it breaks. Across the Aegean Sea in Delos, Greece, the oracles start lying. Or at least, the answers stop making sense. A wealthy merchant pays a priestess to guarantee a son. She prescribes intercourse during sunrise on the 3rd day after full moon, facing west, with laurel oil rubbed on the belly. It results in triplets. All girls, all stillborn. The wife goes mad. The merchant goes bankrupt. Locals say the gods have stopped answering, but no one dares say why. Then comes the violence. In Athens, rumors spread that midwives are intentionally killing male babies to punish families who tried gender selection spells. One is caught in the act burning a scroll, holding a child still in her arms. They stone her in the street. She dies smiling. In Tamil Nadu, an underground movement led by village women begins smuggling surviving daughters out of Brahmin families. They create fake stillbirths, swap out bodies, bury animal parts. It's a secret rebellion, daughters saving daughters. But they're caught. And punished. Publicly, the priests burn their scrolls. Their daughters are fed to the river, and the rivers rise. Then come the omens. A bronze statue of Apollo shatters during a gender ritual in Delphi. No quake, no wind, just breaks. Locals say they heard it scream. In a town near Mathura, a fire ritual pit turns black mid-ceremony. Ash blows backward. The priest's eyes go blind. In Knossos, ancient records claim a mother tried reversing her baby's sex with herbs. The child was born intersex. The midwife panicked and buried it alive. That night, all the goats in the village died with split tongues. And through all of it, the records don't stop. The priests double down. The scrolls grow longer, the chants more absurd. Instead of stopping, they escalate. One recipe instructs to soak a pearl in menstrual blood and swallow it with lion fat to lock the male essence in the womb. Another advises the father to urinate in a circle around the mother. A third says to bury a dead sparrow under the marital bed. All of them end in miscarriages. It's no longer medicine. It's madness dressed in faith. You look around the ruined temple. There are more warnings now, scratched in over older stone. She who plays God shall birth a monster. Bind the womb, lose the soul. Do not ask the moon to lie. What do you get when you play God with gender? A baby or a curse? Sometimes both. They wanted perfect sons. What they got were haunted daughters. You hear a whisper. Not from the past, from the present. The last surviving midwife left one final chant unfinished, and you're standing in the middle of it. The backfire, you thought this was about birth, but the dead never stay buried. You're in a monastery in Thessaly, 100 BCE. The monks have abandoned it. The walls are etched with crosses, then scratched over with knives. Something went wrong here. Very wrong. In the back room is a scroll made of something that doesn't feel like paper. It's too thick, too soft, too organic. How to reclaim the womb after defilement. You feel sick just reading it. Here's the twist. The very thing they feared started to happen. The girls that survived, they didn't forget. You learn about a woman named Nicomache, born in Athens, 260 BC. The second daughter in a family that tried everything to conceive a son. Her mother drank vinegar every morning. Her father hung lead pendants above their bed. They followed every rule. Still, she came. They tried to leave her in the forest, but a priestess took her in. She grew up in silence, learned the chants, memorized the old rituals, but she rewrote them. At 17, she walked into the same temple her parents had visited. She performed a gender ritual in reverse. Instead of praying for a son, she cursed every father who rejected a daughter. Within a year, 5 men in her district died of seizures. Within 2 years, 13 daughters were born to families who used to perform selection rites. People called it a miracle. She called it justice. Now cross to India again. A girl named Sulika is born to a Vedic astrologer. Her birth is considered a failure. Her father, ashamed, teaches her nothing. She learns anyway, hiding in temple corners, watching the rituals, copying the chants. At 13, she rewrites the lunar chart. At 15, she publishes a counter-scroll. The womb cannot be commanded. By 16, she's poisoned by her uncle. Her scroll survives. One line is underlined. The child is not wrong. The world is. Here's the real twist. The more they tried to control gender, the more gender began to fight back. Women stopped naming their daughters with quiet shame. They gave them violent names: Agnica, Kalyana, Medusa. The rituals lost control. The gods stopped answering. In fact, the gods seemed angry. You dig deeper. In Ephesus 120 BCE, a child is born who speaks by age 2, not Babel's language. She tells the midwife her own name. She tells her how she was almost not born. Her parents think it's a blessing. The village calls it a demon. She's stoned by age 5. The night she dies, the town's well boils for an hour. It's no longer about gender now. It's about legacy. These twisted rituals didn't just fail. They corrupted the very lineages they were supposed to protect. Entire dynasties end with mysterious miscarriages. Heirs born mute. Crops rot only on properties owned by gender-practicing families. And those who survive? They become something else. Something not quite human, not quite divine. They prayed for sons to carry their name. Now the only thing that carries it's a curse. You hold the scroll up to the candle. The writing shifts, the ink moves. You swear one line wasn't there before. We are the daughters you tried to erase. You hear soft crying behind you, and realize it's coming from inside the womb-shaped chamber wall. Act 3, Collapse. You're standing on scorched ground now. The temples are abandoned. The scrolls are ash. No chants, no prayers. Just silence and the stench of something ancient rotting from the inside out. This is where it all caves in. The first sign is emptiness. It starts with cradles, in Delphi, in Ujjain. In small towns carved into cliffs or baked into dry Indian soil. No crying. No lullabies. Just rooms full of folded cloth and cold cribs. The babies stop coming. No one understands why. Not at first. They blame the seasons, the food, Mercury in retrograde. The air dot, but then you see it on the walls etched in near panic. The wombs are dry. The gods have shut the gate. This is their revenge. Midwives go from revered to hunted. They're blamed for the stillbirths, for the ghosts that seem to follow every pregnancy. In Athens, 3 are drowned in a cistern. Their heads left on stakes beside the temple of Demeter. One has her fingers cut off first so she can never shape fate again. In India, a wave of miscarriages triggers temple reform. Priests outlaw the Potrika Mushti ritual. Anyone caught sacrificing an animal for a son is banished. Or worse, offered in the animal's place. But the damage is already done. You walk through a palace in Pataliputra, burned to its frame. The walls are cracked with heat. Inside, ash piles mark where children's rooms once were. In the center, a bronze statue of Vishnu split clean in half. You find a record tucked into a hidden wall cavity. A king ordered 7 gender rights for his 7 wives. All were meant to bear sons. None did. He blamed them, executed them, and tried again with concubines. Still nothing. His last entry, carved into stone: even the God will not give me a son. I have no use for God. He died childless. Within a year, his entire bloodline disappeared. All males dead from disease, poison, or revolt. The throne sat empty for 2 generations. Back in Greece, it gets even weirder. Families begin forging daughters' identities into sons, naming girls with male titles just to preserve inheritance. Some even perform gender surgeries, crude, often fatal. One girl named Doros is raised as a boy by her mother. She trains in the gymnasium, fights in the militia. Her secret is found out when she's injured and stripped by a medic. They execute her mother. They leave her to bleed out alone in the mud. Later, local records say all crops failed that summer. The river ran red not with blood, but with silt so thick it choked fish for weeks. The priests call it coincidence. The peasants call it Doros's scream. Now the people rebel. In India, a movement begins. Putri Raksha, protection of the daughter. Women who survived infanticide start engraving poems into temple walls. One survives in Tamil: "You crushed my lungs with silence. I breathe now through fire." In Greece, new sects of priestesses start performing inverted rite ceremonies not to summon sons, but to seal wounds until the gods beg forgiveness. One such priestess is found nailed to the temple door of Hera. A warning. Or a sacrifice, no one knows. Now the curses become real. One family in Macedonia loses every male child for 4 generations. They import wives from Asia, build private temples, sacrifice cattle, humans, even foreign-born boys. Still nothing. The last surviving male heir drowns himself in a public bath. Witnesses say the water froze solid the moment he sank. In India, a dynasty near Kanchipuram builds a new shrine just for gender rights. It's said they carved the ceiling with the words, "Only sons shall rule this house." That ceiling collapses 2 years later during a wedding, killing only the men in attendance. Every woman survives. Every daughter is pregnant within the year with only daughters. They tried to erase one gender. Instead, they erased the future. Who knew playing God came with such terrible customer support? You feel it now. The air is thick, grieving, but still watching you. Cliffhanger. In the distance, you hear crying again, not a baby, but 1,000 mothers, all mourning the same invisible daughter. The final punishment: you walk into the last surviving Potrakameshti pit in northern India. The fires are cold now. The priests are gone, but the ash is still warm. You kneel beside the ritual space. And there, in the blackened dirt, is something burned into the earth. A fetus, still half-formed, charred, hands curled into fists, mouth wide open in a scream no one ever heard. You reach out and flinch. The heat is still alive. This is the moment. The final ritual. And it begins with a lie. You travel to a noble house in Athens, 70 BCE. A widow, desperate to continue her husband's name, performs the last known gender ritual. She gathers herbs mandrake, myrrh, fenugreek, and boils them in bronze. She sleeps facing east as instructed. She fasts for 3 days. She prays to Apollo, and then she drinks it. What follows is not a son. It's not even a child. The birth lasts for 12 hours. The body that comes out is twisted. Arms too long, eyes already open. No skin on the feet. It doesn't cry. It hums. The midwife runs. The widow dies that night, screaming the names of gods no one remembers. The child disappears. 2 decades later, locals still report seeing a pale figure walking the ruins, humming that same tune. They say it's not male or female. They say it bleeds moonlight. They say it speaks in dead tongues. Meanwhile, in India, a similar story unfolds. A Brahmin priest performs the ritual solo, no partner, no wife, just blood and fire and intention. He uses bones from a sacrificed jackal, burns sandalwood soaked in menstrual blood, recites a corrupted mantra meant to command Agni, god of fire, to implant a golden child. He gets one. But it's born with no eyes, and it sees everything. Villagers abandon the town. Birds won't nest there. No dogs bark near it. Locals renamed the place Andhan, the blind village. You now realize what happened. They tampered with the balance. They tried to reshape the cosmic order, and the cosmic order rewrote them back. These weren't just rituals gone wrong. These were summonings. Of punishment, of memory, of every child erased too early, screaming in a world that never wanted them. The final punishment is not death. It's survival. The lineages that remain, haunted. Cursed bloodlines that lose every third child. Women born with double wombs. Men with sterile tears. Entire villages where no one can conceive unless they bury a doll in the soil first. And those who try to perform the rituals again, they don't last long. One priest in Rhodes tries reviving the boy moon rite. He's found the next day pregnant, his abdomen split open, nothing inside but salt and bones. The gods are silent now. Not because they forgive you, because they're watching, because they're waiting. You tried to control life, and all you created was suffering with better documentation. You stand in the center of the last known ritual circle. You whisper the names of the girls who never got one. And something whispers back. The ground below you pulses once, twice, then begins to open. From the shattered cribs and cursed thrones. From temples where wombs were worshipped, then mutilated. From scrolls inked with rules that decided who gets to live, and who gets buried beneath the floorboards before they ever cry. Now you know, sex selection wasn't science, it was sorcery. A desperate gamble by dying empires, terrified kings, and priesthoods who mistook cruelty for control. And they paid for it with extinction. With blood, with legends that still stink of guilt. The question isn't how far they went. It's how much of it still echoes today. Because maybe the curses didn't vanish. Maybe they just got renamed. If that left your spine cold, then don't forget to subscribe to the Inner Chapter, where every story cuts deeper than the last. We don't do history. We dig up what history tried to bury. Unseen, unholy, unforgotten. Like, share, haunt that comment section. And whatever you do, never trust a smiling priest.